Welcome everyone to the pregame show, Bengals versus Bills. With me tonight is Jake Podger from the Nickel City Mafia channel and Brett McDurphy from the Go Bills podcast. We got a lot to talk about. We are excited. We're less than 72 hours away from the biggest game of the year. Every week is the biggest game of the year right now. Before we get into the show, we're going to kick things off with a intro we hope gets you fired up for this show. We want you fired up for this show. So let's go. We'll see you in 1 minute.
Bills Mafia, circling the wagon, you feel me? Nickel City Mafia, let's go!
Josh Allen, quarterback supreme, leading the Bills to the top of the league. Weapons by his side, and that defense hella mean. Buffalo's got a team that must be seen. I said Buffalo's got a team that must be seen. Yeah, come on. J17 leading the charge. Buffalo Bills on the rise. Passing game on point. Ain't no mirage. Happening right in your eyes. Ain't no surprise. Buffalo stacking the QB. Stephon Diggs holding in the pass. Group cards didn't have to go deep. We're circling wagon. Just wait and see. From Wyoming to the NFL, Josh Allen's got the skills. Air raid, deep ball, touchdowns for real. Leading the Bills to playoff drills. Real time, this ain't no drill. Cold game, we're giving them chills. Check the score, now you know the deal. Nickel City Mafia.
I don't know if you're not fired up after that. We're gonna have to have a conversation.
Wake him up, baby. I love it.
Nice.
We're gonna have to have a serious conversation if you're not fired up. So let's go. We're gonna get into things right away. Of course, you know the Nickel City Mafia podcast showed up there at the end, but joining us is we got the Go Bills podcast, Mr. Brett McDurphy. We're streaming to his channel as well. We're missing our good friend Sean. Nobody cooler than Mr. Sean Kula. We miss you, Sean. We'll see you definitely on the post game show, if not sooner. And then, of course, we got Brett's dog joining us tonight. Which what's the name of your dog there, sir?
Shiloh.
Shiloh. We love Shiloh. She's like, she's our adopted pet. Jake and I's adopted pet.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
we
right.
love her as well. So, guys, we're going to get right into this. Lots to talk about. Jake, I'm going to ask you first. Where do you want to start? You want to start on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball?
So I would like to start on the defensive side of the ball. I think the biggest story coming into this game, and my dad he's already got his score prediction, 34-31 Bengals. He thinks it's going to be the same exact score as last week. Hopefully it's not the same type of way that it plays out, but I definitely think it will be a very hard-fought game, as we saw already. We sort of got a preview of what it would look like, and then unfortunately the whole Damar Hamlin situation occurred. But, hey, heading into this game, I think the biggest story is the Bengals' offensive line. They are banged up, man. I mean, they are really down to these backups here, down to second and third stringers. So I think for us, from a defensive front, if we don't get pressure this week, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like we spent a lot of money on these guys. We brought in a lot of depth on that defensive line. We got some absolute dogs up front. There is no reason that we shouldn't have 4 to 5 sacks this week. So I really think that is going to be a huge key for us. The defense needs to step it up because they have the weapons. We know about their weapons, but from their offensive line point of view, I mean, right now they are, they're pretty withered away. So I think that is one of the biggest stories probably heading into this week.
So if that's the case, obviously, I want to give you a number here real quick. I think I spoke about this last time, is that Burrow under pressure is definitely, there's a drop off there. It's interesting because Josh Allen during the year, whether he was kept clean or under pressure, his quarterback rating or his passing rating was about 96.7. Crazy, about the same, whether he was kept clean or under pressure. Now that suffered last week against the Dolphins. It kind of dropped to 66 passer rating, and that was mostly they brought a lot of pressure, and I think that was more of the play calling. We were going for the big ball, big play downfield, and I think that definitely hurt things. So we definitely, I think, need to get back to taking what's there. I love the going deep. I love the deep balls. Honestly, I really do. And I've seen a lot of folks say, God, they need to stop doing that. But let me say this to you. If Josh Allen would have hit Gabe Davis on that long ball, he went to him twice, back to back. He saw the coverage. He took his shot. he hits those, people are saying a different thing. It's always easy to be the armchair quarterback
Of
afterwards, but obviously we know. I think we threw. I mean, how many long balls did we throw in that game last week? 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Those are low percentage plays, but hey, I love it. But let's work the field a little bit more. But Brett, let me throw it to you in your thoughts on this. What we're going to face against this Bengals. Where are there opportunities that we can take advantage of? I know Jake says we should be able to get pressure, and if we do, Burrow goes. Let me just throw this number out to you real quick. So during the season, Joe Burrow was, let's see here. He was, where are you at, Joe? Where are you at? Let's see here. I'm not sure.
By the way, just a little filler here, guys. The Sabres won in overtime on Ryan Miller night. 12 seconds into overtime, Dylan Cousins with a game-winning goal. They won 3-2 against the Islanders. So I'll tell you what, they're going to start this nice little weekend off with a big win. I love to see it. So hopefully we can carry it over.
Awesome. So good to see you, Tom. Good to see you, Big L.
I'm coming in with it too. Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
I'm always shocked, Big L. He loves that 35 number. He's going 34. But here's the number I wanted to share with you. So Joe Burrow, when he's kept clean, 104 passer rating, 104.3. Got to get those that percentage in there. When he's under pressure, drops to an 86.
Wow.
Right. So there's a nice drop there. Whereas Josh Allen, whether he's under pressure or not during the year, of course, he was 96.7 passer rating with pressure, and with no pressure, he was 96.6. He was actually better with pressure, believe it or not. That's a crazy number. And a lot of that just comes from Josh being able to escape. And the Dolphins did a good job last week. So let me throw it to you, Brett. Where do you see the challenges? Where can we take advantage of? And, obviously, where can the Bengals take advantage of? Because that last game a couple of weeks ago, I got to tell you, man, they were going up and down the field. Those first 2 drives they had with ease. I mean, they went down, scored, took a 7-0 lead. We got a field goal on our next drive, and they were coming right back down the field. It looked like they're having a way with us. So talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Mike. I think that you're exactly right. The biggest thing between the game against the Bengals the first time in this game is going to be having Kaiir Elam back out there, which we didn't have compared to the first matchup. He was on the sidelines more throughout the game, but I think that Buffalo is going to have to rely on him a little bit more in this game. And he had a really nice game last week against the Dolphins. And I think that matchup is going to be where Buffalo is going to have to utilize him in that press man coverage like he did last week against Tyreek Hill. And I think that that'll stop guys like Jamar Chase as well as T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd in the middle of the field. So I'm looking forward to that matchup for the Bills to win. But matchups for the another matchup for the Bills is going to be the running backs. And I think that the running backs for the Bengals, they've struggled throughout the year. They haven't really found their footing with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. So I think that that's going to be another matchup where Buffalo can create 3rd and longs in those situations. And I think that will favor Buffalo because you'll have to pass the ball down the field to that potentially 20 yards down the field. And I think that Buffalo is going to be right there because we're allowing one of the lowest completion percentage over 20 yards thrown down the field this year.
Interesting. You brought up Kaiir, so let me ask you, Jake. Has Kaiir earned a starting role? Should he be starting opposite of Trey White?
Should never be benched again.
But should he be starting over Dane Jackson?
I absolutely believe he should be. Yes. I think what he offers is so much. It's light years ahead of what Dane Jackson does. And I love Dane Jackson. No disrespect to him, but I just think with the ability to play press man like that, and I know it's not our defense. We run a zone defense, but like to have the ability to shut down a playmaker like Tyreek Hill, like Jamar Chase, and also, by the way, Kaiir Elam, a little familiarity with Jamar Chase. He played in the SEC. They played against LSU a few times. So I think just that alone, like there's so many things that he offers. He played so well last week. Let's ride that momentum into this week. I think he absolutely needs to be the starting corner alongside of Trey White. There's no doubt in my mind. And also, maybe Christian Benford returns this week. That's another thing. It's another possibility.
I know we've been missing him, and I mean he got off to such a great start. Had the injury bug hit him. Haven't seen him back, but Man, he's so good. It'd be nice to have him on there. So it's a good problem to have. We
Right.
got some nice corners. Last time when we played the Bengals, I know it was a short game. They had 2 series against us, and you said Brett that Kyer was he inactive for that game?
I think he was active, but I think he was on the bench, and they weren't playing him. They had Xavier Rhodes playing more than him.
Right.
Okay. Well, he didn't start last week either. I saw him come in later in the game. Dane got the start, but I'm okay if Kyer is starting. I think I agree with you, Jake. He looks so good when he's out there. He's been making some great plays. I love that he can play press coverage. He's a bigger corner. He runs a 4.3. He's got to be one of the fastest guys on the team. I would love to see him and Hines go at it in a 40-yard dash.
I think he was an unofficial 4.39. Naheem Hines was 4.38. So they're 0.001 second off. So that's that tells you anything. And listen, I don't put you put a little stock into the 40-yard dash. Yeah. Obviously, game speed matters more, but he can run with the best of them. I mean, really, what he did last week against Tyreek Hill was so impressive to me, to be able to stay with him and just the plays that he made. It was extremely impressive for a rookie. I think he took it personally. He took it personally like Michael Jordan, and they show that whole meme with him, and I took that personally. I think Kyer Elam took it personally, man. Like, he was ready to get back on the field and prove himself, and he's been showing that day in and day out, whenever he's out there.
Yeah. I want to ask you about Shaq Lawson. So Epinesa, I was looking at the only tool I really have to kind of compare and see how Epinesa is doing is I use PFF. I think we've all used PFF at one time. Yeah. Epinesa is not getting love from PFF. I mean, his numbers are very low. Well, I mean, much lower than you'd expect. And he has, in my opinion, been quiet. We have seen Shaq Lawson having a great year for us, and I believe he's now got the starting position over there. Not sure what's going on with Epinesa, but hey, we got Shaq Lawson over there turning it up a notch, and he's just been bringing the heat. What's your thoughts on that, Jake, as far as what's going on with Epinesa? Is it just, I mean, we say this every year, this is his year, and here he is. He's been pretty quiet. And again, looking at PFF, they have him rated very, very low.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I think guys like even Kingsley Jonathan have almost surpassed him in terms of being impressive as of late. And we thought we'd see more of Kingsley Jonathan, but we haven't seen that yet. So, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with him. Like, if he's going to be trade bait in the offseason even. He had 6.5 sacks this year. I thought he had some pretty decent games throughout the season, but as of late, it's all been Shaq Lawson, and you just got to ride the hot hand. I think it's a similar situation to Kyer Elam, minus the fact that, Kyer hasn't been playing. In this case, Shaq Lawson has been playing, and he's been playing great, and they've kept him in there for the most part. So I think I don't think AJ's bad by any means. I just think that right now, what Shaq offers is run stopping ability, and he contains well, and he gets pressure on the quarterback. So he's doing all three very well, and I think it's a little bit better than AJ Epinesa, who he was just a little more one-dimensional, if you will. So I think that's really what it comes down to with those two.
Yeah. Your thoughts on that, Brett?
I completely agree with Jake on this. I think that it's more about the matchup who we were playing over the last few weeks. So if you look back at the teams that we played, you got the Patriots who run the ball heavily. So that favors Shaq Lawson. You also have the Miami Dolphins who run the ball as well. And they have that Mike Daniel system with Raheem Mostert as well as Jeff Wilson that they run. And both of those guys, I believe, are guys that Shaq Lawson would have to contain the edge over AJ Epinesa. And I think that they utilize AJ Epinesa in a different way where they're trying to get him involved in the pass game. So that's why you're seeing Shaq Lawson and his name being brought up so much more than he was over the first few weeks of the year. Now he's starting to come alive, and he's not only getting it done, like we said, in the run game, but he's also getting it done in the pass game where he's getting some blocked passes as well as he's getting some pressure on the quarterback as well. And it's really good to see because he's a former number 1 pick for the Buffalo Bills. Comes back, and he's now starting to get into his stride again, starting to feel at home, and hopefully Buffalo later in the year can sign him to a long-term contract again.
All right. So on
that's a great point, Brett, too. Yeah, I think that is it is important based on who we're playing, seeing what the Bengals do. I mean, they have Joe Mixon in the backfield, but you look at the teams that we have been playing, they are, I wouldn't say run heavy, but they offer more of a threat to run the football. And that's weird to say because Joe Mixon's a Pro Bowl running back, but
Right.
hasn't really gotten it done this year. It's been more Samaje Perine than Joe Mixon, if anything. And Joe Mixon's been banged up, but I think we're more worried about that three-headed monster with, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd as compared to, having Joe Mixon run all over us. I think we're okay with almost letting him, have a day, just shutting down those receivers. So it will be interesting to see, how often Shaq Lawson plays in this game if AJ gets more reps because he is that, quick edge rusher. And, with Jonah Williams potentially being out, which I think he probably will be, it might be a good situation for him to play more.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But you got to also remember something too. At the beginning of the season, Joe Mixon had a 5-touchdown game.
Oh yeah,
so you got to worry about him too.
Oh, he's a stud. Yeah, he's unbelievable.
He can go off. He can do it in not only the run game, but he can also do it in the passing game. And it's just another asset for Joe Burrow, who I think over the past few years has really changed the way that he plays. Where last year he was getting sacked quite a bit. Now he's starting to get the ball out a little bit quicker, especially more running back, checking it down to P. Ryan as well as to Joe Mixon. But you can also utilize the three-headed tandem that they have in their wide receiver room as well.
Right. That's a good point.
Jake, did you see anything in that Raven game against Cincinnati last week that you said, you know what? Okay, we can take advantage there. Because the Ravens, that game was close. Again, it's interdivision. They see each other all the time. You expect that type of game. And of course, they had those injuries hit them on the offensive line. The Bengals did. And you saw some weaknesses there on that offensive line, which is something like you've already said and Brett has said that we should be able to take advantage. Was there anything else you saw in that Raven game? You're like, okay, I think we can do pretty well this year. I feel like a little more comfortable than I felt before seeing that game.
Taking away the middle. Tremaine Edmonds, man. I mean, he's a man possessed out there. It's such a difference when he's in the game. Tyler Boyd is one of the better slot receivers in this league. And, I know that, Joe looks for him in those tough clutch situations. I feel like with the way Tremaine's been playing and with the presence that he is in the middle of the field, it's going to be tough to throw across the middle against us. And they got Trenton Irwin too. He's another up and coming receiver for them. He's played pretty well, but I like our guys, man. I like our linebackers. They've been playing fantastic football. I think if anyone, I'm curious to see how they cover Hayden Hurst more so instead of the actual slot guys and taking away the middle of the field with those guys. I think it'll be more interesting to see what they do with the tight end.
Yeah, good point there. When I look at these two teams, when you compare them PFF, like I look at the offenses, I look at the defenses, man, they are graded so similar. I mean, these teams, like looking in the mirror, they're just so similar. It's incredible. I mean, we didn't talk about, well, we'll get into the defense here in a second here, but obviously their big advantage, Jake, I believe, is their three receivers, which you talked about. That three-headed monster on that offense. Again, it was giving us a lot of trouble in those first two drives. It's given a lot of teams trouble. And I think, you guys have summed it up. If we put pressure on Burrow, there's hope there. There's hope to help shut that down. The Ravens did it last week, especially if they're missing those couple guys we talked about already.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was watching Cover One a little bit today, and I was just watching the offensive line play. And I'll tell you this, like, no disrespect to Hakeem Adeniji, but I think he is more natural at the guard position than he is right tackle. So now you have him playing right tackle, and then on the other side, you have a new left tackle in for Jonah Williams, most likely. I think they officially, I'm not sure who's actually going to be playing there. I think it's a rookie, young kid. Who do they have
position?
There? Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. It will be Jackson Carman, most likely, out of Clemson. So he was a second-round pick in 2021. So that's not terrible. Still, obviously, a young kid. I think, you could take advantage of him. I mean, he's a bigger guy, 6'5", 322. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens there. I do think Jonah Williams probably won't play in this game. He was on crutches at the end of the game last week. So, all signs are sort of pointing to him potentially not playing in this game.
All right. Well, who we got on the channel here? If you're out on the channel, you're being a little quiet, we want to hear you. Say hello to us. Tell us where you're from. If you're one of our regulars, that's great too. Just say hi. We'd love to see who we have out there in the channel. So Brett, let's get to the offensive side of things right now. Let me throw it to you to start, since I started with Jake on the defensive side. So, what are the challenges that this offense is going to have with this Bengal defense? Where do you see us potentially being able to take advantage?
Yeah, I think the perimeter is going to be the area the Buffalo can really attack. You got a guy in Eli Apple who has been a travel man who everywhere he goes, he pretty much stars. But he was with the New York Jets. He was also with the New Orleans Saints. Then he comes over to the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's just been the starter all the way around. And he hasn't been spectacular with what he does, but he just finds a starting role, and he rolls with it. And he's going to be going up against Stephon Diggs. And I think this matchup is going to favor Stephon. But it's going to favor him, especially if he's going to run those slant routes as well as dig routes and stuff like that. But the thing that I'm really worried about is going up against Jesse Bates. And he's a ball hawking safety who reminds me so much of Kevin Byard in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that, I mean, he can take advantage of the routes that Stephon Diggs is going to run, like the go route, as well as different routes like that he'll run. So I'm more worried about if we throw the ball deep to Stephon Diggs, I think Bates is going to come down with an interception in this game, and I'm a little worried about that. But I think on the perimeter, no matter who is going to be guarding, whether it's Stephon Diggs as well as Gabe Davis, I'm not really worried about either one of the cornerbacks on the outside. I'm just worried about the safeties deep.
Yeah, so you got Apple and Taylor Britt for the corners. They do have a very good slot corner, Hilton.
Mike Hilton. He is the unsung hero of that defense. I mean, he comes on, corner blitzes and everything. He is really, really good. He's been a great signing for them. He was with Pittsburgh, and now he's with Cincinnati, coming to a rival team, but he's been great, man. That's Brett. I like what you said there about the safeties. I mean, you're talking Jesse Bates, Von Bell, who's very good, and then they have Daxton Hill, who was their first-round pick. And all of those guys can play all over the field. They could play in run coverage as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because last week the Dolphins, I mean, they ran a lot of cover zero and they were blitzing the hell out of us. I mean, 8 to 5 guys. Of course, the offensive line is going to lose that battle every time. This is the total opposite pretty much. They rush 3, sometimes 2. I mean, it's crazy. Like, they'll drop 8. So it's a totally different scheme. So I don't know if you're going to see as many of the deep routes, which is probably for the best. I mean, in that in the initial game that we had against them, it looked like Stephon Diggs was going to have a monster day. He caught a couple passes right off the bat. And I think the underneath stuff, especially this week, is going to be huge. So, hey, Khalil Shakir, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, Steph on the slant routes, that should be open all day. I feel pretty good about that, and I love the matchup with him versus Eli Apple. I think he 100% will take advantage of that.
Yeah, so I have a follow-up question to you, Jake. So the Bengals, like you said, they've only had 30 sacks on the year. I mean, that is 29th in the league. That's absolutely crazy to think. The pressure, they're somewhere in the middle of the back as far as bringing pressure. So like you said, they drop 8 sometimes, which I know they've done that a lot against Kansas City when I've seen that.
That was the recipe against them. Yeah.
Right, and it makes it extremely difficult to complete anything because you got 8 people out there defending. Right. But what about the run? You didn't mention the run. I think there's an opportunity there.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's another good point too, Mike. I will say though, their linebackers have played really, really well this year. Logan Wilson, Josh Allen's former teammate at Wyoming. I think he's going to have Josh on a spy for sure all game. But as far as the actual run game goes with our running backs, there should be some openings there. I think it's something that we should not overlook. And if it's working, just keep rolling with it.
So, Brett, let me ask you this. How do you attack a team that's only rushing 3 and dropping 8, sometimes rushing 4, dropping 7? How do you attack that?
I think that the biggest thing is you're going to have to run the ball, like we said, and I think you're going to have to run it with either Devin Singletary as well as James Cook, and we're going to have to get these running backs involved, and that we'll have to establish the run to set up the pass in this game, but also utilizing the play action to kind of sell the throws that Josh is going to have to make. And when we do that, you're going to see at times that they're going to probably bring 5, maybe 6 into, the line of scrimmage to try and stop the run, and we're going to have to attack them over the top, and that's going to be the biggest way to win this game. But this is also a really good group of guys in the defensive line group. You got guys like DJ Reader, you have Trey Hendrickson, who are both playing at a really good level this year. And Hendrickson's playing, he's been playing with a broken wrist. And he's playing pretty good this year. And I mean, you can't really find an area on this defense that there's an issue with, because you also have a linebacker in Jermaine Pratt who's been stepping up big this year as well.
Yep.
So I think that it's going to be tough to find an area for the Bills to really attack, because like we said, we're in the divisional round right now. These are the best of the best guys right out here right now. And I think that it's going to be tough, but Buffalo's going to have to play a very smart game without turning the ball over this week.
Yeah, that's a key point, turning the ball over. Jake, do you agree with everything Brett said as far as how you attack a defense like this?
Yeah, I think you got to keep them honest one way or the other. I think even if you have to force feed, our running backs a few times just to make sure that they aren't dropping 8 every single time, I think that's absolutely a really good method. And hey, take what the defense gives you. Brett, you said it all last show during your halftime speech and even after for post game. Take what the defense gives you, man. This is the perfect opportunity to do that. I would like to actually see something that we really haven't done a whole lot of this year and work in some screen game.
Yeah.
The Stephon Diggs, like quick smoke screen plays, like all that stuff. Like, I think Nyheim Hines is a good screenplay guy. I think even Dawson Knox, you get him on a tight end slip screen or something like that. I think it opens up those opportunities as well, gets these guys playing closer up to the line, and then you can maybe hit an over-the-top pass. I mean, there is a possibility that they will have to play up more and respect that type of play. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. This defense works extremely well, but it can be exposed.
We got the Sean Cazzoli out there.
That's Ray John Bills, I believe. Welcome to it, brother. Great to see you out there.
Is that Ray John Bills?
So I think that's his personal channel, and he has Ray John Bills as his Bills channel.
Right.
I watched your show, by the way, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
I did too. He's coming in undercover.
Yep, that's right.
Good stuff there. Hey, so the weather is supposed to be pretty decent, around 35 degrees. They are, again, it's Buffalo. You never know. I checked it yesterday. Every hour I check, it changes. There are predictions of PM snow showers. So in the afternoon, some snow showers. Now the game kicks off at 3 p.m. in Buffalo. Will those snow showers be around? Don't know. You're going to have to check the hourly report as we get closer to the game. But as far as any wind, 7 miles per hour, 35 degrees. Josh Allen should be firing on all cylinders, Jake. This is not, I'm hoping those snow showers stay away a little bit for a while till late in the game, if anything, and let Josh Allen, fire on all cylinders. Let the elements not affect him, and that's when he's at his best. And again, I think that gives us a little bit of advantage either way. If it does snow, I know Cincinnati's from a cold weather as well, but not as cold as Buffalo.
Yeah. I'll say this. Now, last week we turned the ball over a few times, and I'm not going to say we could afford to do it because it was still a 3-point game. This is a totally different offense than what the Dolphins were. Yeah. This team can score points, and they will capitalize on those turnovers in their own territory. They're not going to just be kicking field goals. So, especially with Elijah McPherson, he has been playing that great lately. So I don't know if they really trust him as much. He was money McPherson last year. This year, not so much. So I think that is going to be the biggest thing with Josh is just not, having those boneheaded plays and taking care of the football. And again, we talked about it. Not all the turnovers were his fault last week. Obviously, the one play where the DB reached in and it was deflected off of Cole Beasley's hands. So there's that. And then obviously the one play miscommunication between him and John Brown. But the fumbling, I think that is, just cover it up, man. Cover it up, take the sack, go down. I think sometimes he tries to make a play, which I'm not mad about. I'm not mad about it. I love that he's trying to make a play, but in key situations like that, it really comes back to bite us.
Yeah.
So I think these two teams, for me, we do this little betting show. We've started it for the playoffs. Not really betting, but who's going to win. And then there is some betting aspect of it. And my lock was take the over on this game. I think both these teams are going to go up and down the field. What it's going to come down to, who's more efficient in the red zone. And we've struggled at times in the red zone throughout the year. We struggled to, we take the opening kickoff down to the 3-yard line last week, and we go for it on 4th and 3, and we fail. And we've seen that at times. I think whoever is the most efficient team in the red zone, obviously, I think takes this game.
Yeah. Yep. You're definitely right about that.
I don't have the stats. I wish I did. I don't know if you guys know where to go get that real quick. Like, I would love to know our red zone efficiency versus the Bengals red zone efficiency on offense. If you guys have that number, that'd be some great info. Rage on Bills, what is up? I mean, we got John Cazzoli and Rage on Bills on the channel. I don't know how that's possible because you're saying they're the same person, but I love it. So, John, please like, subscribe, and drop a nickel on that subscribe button.
I love it. He said, I love the riddles that he's been putting out there. Look at this.
Yeah.
Riddle me this. Riddle me this. Who's afraid of the orange cats?
I
A
have
little
it right
nervous. A little nervous, but it's good to be nervous.
What you got?
So I
Brett?
have the stats for the red zone efficiency this year. Buffalo is ranked 9th in the NFL. Other teams that are still in the playoffs, you got Dallas, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Cincinnati's ahead of us, and then the Giants and Minnesota, then us. So we're at 70%. I'm sorry,
Pretty good.
61% right now. Last 3 games is 70%. So we're getting the ball down the field. We're making sure that we're getting into the red zone and we're capitalizing right now. But I mean, 70% right now, we're ahead of Minnesota, and Tennessee was horrible, but we're also ahead.
What are the Bengals at?
They are at 66% right now. But the last 3 games, they're at 55%. So they're kind of struggling a little bit and falling off the wagon,
Okay.
but we're on the trend up. So,
Hey, what's up, Trek Reviewer? Good to see you.
How we doing, sir? Great to
Yes,
see you
how
out
are
there.
you?
Thank you for joining.
Yes. So again, I always forget to say this, but I've learned a lesson. I don't feel you should ask for a subscription until we've earned it a little bit. So we kind of wait 32 minutes into our show. If you liked what you've seen, please like, comment, and drop a nickel on that subscribe button. Go to Go Bills Podcast and smash it. Again, it's if you like it. I heard somebody say that, Jake, and I'm like, that's a good point. A lot of people say, hey, if you're new to, right off the bat, if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button. Why? We haven't earned that yet. So
yeah,
there's free will involved here. You got to make the choice. I mean, if you like us, subscribe. If not, then hey, don't watch our content. Plain and simple.
All right. So we've covered the defense. We've talked about where we, from an offensive perspective, where we might be able to take advantage, what we're going to be going up against. Talk about running the ball. We talked about the defensive side, where we can take advantage against that banged up offensive line on the Bengals. I think we're ready to get into just kind of our score predictions, but let me bring up what Rage on Bills says here. Bills are going to win this game. I got to tell you, Rage on Bills, the skull was a little off last week. I really felt it was off. Hopefully you give it a little shake. I feel like we were predicting that the Ravens were upsetting the Bengals, so the skull was wrong there. There was something going on. But
It should have happened, though. It should have happened.
It should have. It should have. It's going to be close, but analytics to me mean nothing. The Dolphins game was a division game. Those are always tough. And yeah, we talked about earlier in the show, same thing with the Bills, Dolphins, right? They see each other 3 times a year. Of course, you're going to expect that type of game. Let's see here. What do we got here? Joe McCulkley Coughlin is going to be exposed.
That's great.
Let's hope so. We got 1777 memorabilia. I think Bills win comfortably. I sure hope so. I'm getting tired of these, like, oh my God, my heart. I don't know if we can take another game like that, Dolphin game, but I think it's going to be one of those games. I really do. I think this is going to be another classic. I hope we're on the winning side this time, because if you look over the last 2 years, who's played in probably the most exciting games in the NFL? The Buffalo Bills, right? Yeah. And sometimes we're on the heartbreaking side. A lot of times we've been on the heartbreaking side, the Minnesota, the 13 seconds. I mean, you can look at the Dolphins game early on in the season, the Jets game that we lost.
Texans game.
What's that?
The Texans game.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, brutal, man.
let's just. I think from from a fan perspective, this is going to be a game. This is a game that everyone wanted to see. I know I wanted to see it after what happened a couple of weeks ago. I feel it's right that these two teams are playing each other to move on to the AFC Championship game. So at this point, let's see what else do we got here. Let's talk about what some of our folks are saying here. If Allen doesn't turn the ball over, but let's see if Allen doesn't turn the ball over, but if Allen goes Josh, this will be a close game. McDermott has to find a way to take the ball out of Allen's hands and balance the offense. Home Alone Part 2 or Part 4.
I love that comment. That's awesome, man. That's hilarious.
I want to say this. We didn't talk about this on the last show, but we know, interesting enough, Ken Dorsey is interviewing for the head coach position of the Carolina Panthers, and I believe that interview is happening Saturday.
Yes.
What's
I
interesting?
think it's Friday.
Is it
tomorrow?
It's either Friday or
Is it
Saturday.
tomorrow? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's tomorrow.
hopefully that's not distracting him too much, and he's focused on getting this game plan right. Say what you want. I mean, it's incredible that he's first year offensive coordinator and he's being considered for head coaching jobs. So that says a lot. Leslie Frazier, though, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think teams are missing out. I mean, Leslie Frazier, I know he was a coach before. It didn't work out for him. And I think a lot of the teams nowadays are looking for these young, new types of coaches that are coming out with these new, they're offensive-minded coaches versus defensive-minded coaches. But I got to tell you what, if Leslie Frazier was given another opportunity, I think he'd be fantastic.
It is interesting, though. You bring up a point, Mike. The only coach left in the playoffs that's defensive, like background-wise, is Sean McDermott. Everyone else in the playoffs, coach-wise, came from an offensive, background, basically. So it definitely is the new wave. People want offense. People want these young minds and trick plays and all this other stuff. So it's, I think that definitely has a piece in all of this.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Jake. But I was going to ask you guys a question. How much of it do you think is Leslie Frazier not wanting a head coaching position potentially? Maybe
could be.
Maybe he's just comfortable in Buffalo. He likes being on Sean McDermott's staff, and he doesn't want to be a head coach again because of all the trauma that he had in Minnesota, and he just wants to run a defense like the way that he's doing it right now. And he says, we're right to where we could be, where we could get to the Super Bowl. And I know our window is closing, and I'm probably going to retire in maybe 5-6 years. So I'm going to ride this out, and I'm just going to let my defense play out and see where it goes.
That's a very good point. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being a head coach. He's been there. He's done that. His last starting quarterback in the playoffs was Joe Webb, I believe. So, I mean, he was a playoff coach in Minnesota, and he had Adrian Peterson. And like I said, I'm pretty sure Joe Webb was a starting quarterback against the Packers his last year there. So I don't know if he wants anything to do with it again. I mean, that might be a thing that he's just comfortable being the DC, and that's totally fine because we love him. I think he takes a lot of criticism.
He does.
And at times, he's easy to blame for things. But for the most part, man, the defense has been solid all year. We haven't changed schemes. We've stayed in the same scheme, and we've found a way to win games. And they've been the backbone of this team at some point. So, I mean, credit to him, absolutely.
Jake, with McDermott being a defensive-minded coach, how much influence do you think he takes with Leslie Frazier saying, and impacting what he really wants to do? You think it's, you can't say, I know Frazier is taking a lot of the heat, but McDermott being that defensive-minded coach, they got to be working together.
Yeah.
McDermott's got to be, at least sharing his advice. What do you think about that?
I think they have very similar philosophies, so they mesh pretty well together. But I will say this about Sean McDermott. I feel like he really does let his guys coach. He doesn't try to micromanage as much. I mean, he obviously will have his say with certain things and, making situational calls. But I think when it comes down to like letting the offensive coordinator run the plays he wants to run, I heard that last year there was a rift between him and Brian Dable because he wanted to run the football more, this, that, and other. I don't think there's a lot of that going on. I think Sean McDermott does let his staff, do their jobs, and he doesn't micromanage a ton. But, in terms of him and Leslie Frazier, they communicate all the time. But again, they kind of run a very similar type of defense anyways. So it works well between the two of them.
All right, I do want to mention this. So Gronk saying he would have come out of retirement to play in Buffalo.
I saw that.
Did he say that recently?
I don't think
Yeah.
he specifically said he would come out of retirement. He said he's a big Bills fan, and it'd be awesome
Yeah.
to play with Josh Allen. I don't know if he actually said, "Hey, I'm ready to come out of retirement right now. Sign me." Because I think if that was the case, I mean, he would have had a contract by now. But go ahead, Brett. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. So what he said was he was talking about when Tom Brady retired and he was still looking to play in the NFL, and he was looking at a couple of other teams that were available. One being Buffalo, and there's a couple other teams that were interested in him, and he decided, I guess, to fly up to Buffalo and check it out. And he was contemplating playing with us, and Buffalo did extend an offer to him. They gave him a contract. He declined that contract and decided to stay retired. And he was hoping that Tom Brady was going to come back. When Tom Brady came back, he decided, he's still done. He doesn't want to do it. Potentially he would come back later in the year. Nothing progressed. And I think he's still an analyst with Fox Sports right now.
Yeah.
I believe that. So
the latest thing that came out, he was on Kay Adams's show. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he was talking about Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers made a quote on the Pat McAfee show saying he thinks he could still win an MVP in Green Bay. And then Gronk came back and basically said on the Kay Adams show, he said, you're talking about MVPs. Why an MVP? Don't you want to win a Super Bowl? Like, that's an individual award, whereas you should be thinking about, winning a Super Bowl with the team. So I thought that was interesting. Listen, I don't hate Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. I know a lot of people don't like that guy, but I listen to him on McAfee every week, and I'm interested to hear what he has to say. I think he does bring a lot of viewers to that show too, and I don't think he's as bad as everyone makes him out to be. Like, everyone makes him out to be this absolute psychopath, and all of his teammates hate him and all that. I don't think that's really the case at all, but that was interesting. Gronk firing back a little bit. He's usually pretty fun loving, so that was absolutely a shot fired at him.
But
yeah.
What do you
Go ahead.
What do you say, Trek reviewer here? If Carolina hires Dorsey, could Frank Reich be our next offensive coordinator?
That would be awesome.
I would love it. I think it would be great for Buffalo, but I don't know if his scheme fits what Buffalo is trying to run. And I know that he likes to run the ball a little bit more. I don't think it fits exactly what Josh Allen wants to do. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, God, it would be awesome to see him being in Buffalo. But I wanted to go back to what Jake was saying about the Super Bowl. And I wanted to bring up another comment that was made. It was actually a headline that happened a couple days ago. Von Miller came into the facility a couple days ago, and he brought his Super Bowl replica trophy. And he was talking to the guys saying, you got to do whatever it takes to get this. If you want this, you got to do whatever it takes. And I felt like this week it was the perfect time to do it, because you saw guys like Gabe Davis, and I don't even know if you guys saw this video, but he spent 30 minutes after practice on the jugs machine trying to catch the ball. You saw a couple of other players that stayed after, and they're doing it whatever it took to get to that point, guys in the weight room and stuff like that. And I think it's incredible to see that as well. And then another headline I wanted to bring up is the Bills this week are going to have pennants for DeMar Hamlin. And these pennants look so freaking cool. So if you have a chance, I saw it on, I think it was Buffalo Fanatics, that they are doing this, and they had the pennants out. They are so freaking cool, and I'm looking forward to this game, and I'm hoping that he can walk out onto the field. And I know he won't be the legend of the game like we called last week, but if he can be at the game, the energy is going to be incredible for Buffalo. And I hope and pray that the Bills fans are respectful to all the Cincinnati Bengals fans out there. I hope that they give every single player a standing ovation, because they deserve it, as well as UC Medical Center as well. And I think it's going to be a really good game. You got Eric Moulds being the legend of the game in this game, and nobody better to have out there one of the more respectful players in the NFL, in Eric Moulds, to be out there for this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Brett. I mean, I think the Bills Mafia will be totally respectful. I mean, what the Dolphins, what the Bengals fans did, what the Bengals team did, what the coaching staff did is all very commendable and just great. I mean, it was fantastic. And so I think I said this a few weeks ago, I think a lot of folks probably have as well. Like, if it's not the Buffalo Bills moving on, I'm going to be pulling for the Bengals all the way through. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic game. And I did hear the story about Von Miller coming in and bringing in like, what was it? A replica,
Little
right?
replica.
A replica. So that's fantastic. And everything else everything else that you mentioned as well. So, and DeMar Hamlin is back at the facility. He's been at the facility all week from what I hear. And again, we don't know what his future holds, but he's back there. I think he's working out a little bit, whatever, but he's at the facility. I did hear that as well.
Yeah. And I just got an update, actually, guys. I literally ESPN update right here, just saying Bills DeMar Hamlin faces lengthy recovery, spokesman says, which we obviously know. But basically just saying, he still has a long way to go in his recovery, his family spokesman told ESPN on Thursday night. In a statement, the spokesman, Hamlin's longtime friend and business partner, Jordan Rooney, said despite being out of the hospital, DeMar still has a lengthy recovery. DeMar still requires oxygen and is having his heart monitored regularly. He has visited with the team a few times, as we mentioned, but he still gets winded very easily. He's upbeat, positive, and ready to continue and overcome this. So great to hear. I mean, again, we literally witnessed a miracle on the field. I mean, that is so cool to see on national television. To bring this guy back, I mean, it's amazing, man. It brings chills to you just thinking about it. You like to imagine how cool it would be if they walk out for the coin toss and he's walking out with his teammates. But obviously, you got to baby steps, right?
Yeah.
It's a wishful thing, but obviously, you got to be smart about it too.
Yeah, that's exactly what Sean McDermott said today. Was it's going to be baby steps for him to come back, because people were asking, is he going to participate in team meetings and stuff like that? And right now, he's not to the point where he can participate in those meetings, like Jake said, where he's requiring the oxygen right now. So I know it's only been 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to seeing the progress that he can make going forward. But I mean, like you said, it's a miracle that we saw on the field. And I'm so glad that he's still alive. I'm so glad that he's here. And if he can walk out onto that field, I know he will if he can. But you might have to take a step back and let him recover and not rush him back to the field.
Agree.
Yeah.
And I just want to rephrase something. If sometimes commendable doesn't sound strong enough, but what the Bengals fans and the Bengals team did was extraordinary. I mean, it wasn't just commendable; it was incredible, above and beyond, as well as everyone in the NFL. But their team was there too. They seen it. They saw it happen. So I think these two teams have a special bond. They have a special bond dating all the way back to, many, many years. We played them in an AFC championship way back in the days. But 2017, of course, when Andy Dalton threw that touchdown on 4th down to Tyler Boyd to win the game against the Ravens and put the Bills into the playoffs for the first time in many years. So special bonds.
Am I right on this, Mike? Just thinking back now. So we're talking about when we played the Bengals in the AFC championship. Was that for our first Super Bowl? We played them in the AFC championship?
No,
that was the Browns.
It would have been we played our first AFC championship that we won and went to the Super Bowl was against the Raiders.
The Raiders.
We beat them.
Was that the 50? No,
51-3.
51-3. Okay.
Yeah, we whipped out. They were the Los Angeles Raiders. A couple of years prior, I think it was 88 or 89. We played the Bengals in the AFC championship. Boomer Esiason was the quarterback. Ickey Woods was the running back. The Ickey Shuffle back then. And then they went on to lose against, I think it was Joe Montana. Yeah, it was Joe Montana and the 49ers. So lots of history here, but especially over the last few years. So anyhow, I wanted to correct that because it was, I don't know, commendable didn't seem strong enough.
That's absolutely
worthy enough. So let's get into it. It's time. We're at 49 minutes. Brett, we promised your fiance that we would get some time for you to spend with her.
All of our lives.
All of our lives. Well, my wife's an hour away, had to go to work, had to take out a new recruit for dinner. And so I have my little boy here tonight. But let's get into the score predictions and bold predictions. Put them in the channel, everyone. I want to see some. And let's see, what do we got out there? I love all the conversation we got going on right there. I do want
This
to,
is awesome.
real quick, so start putting those out there. Let's see what Ray John Bill said. Kyrie Elam and DeMarlo, as well as Trey White, are going to be X factors in this game. When they show up, our defense front produces. It'll be epic. Marco Beasley, John Brown, and Diggs. We'll see. We'll see who's going to be. We got so many good with Khalil Shakir coming on, with McKenzie now. Looks like he's going to be ready for the game. Not all these guys are going to be active. So we could talk about that. But if we do, we'd run another 15 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to be active. I love what Shakir's been doing. Khalil, not only is he a good blocking receiver, but we know he has fantastic hands. Cole Beasley made some nice plays in that game, had a touchdown. So it'll be interesting because Brown is not a slot guy, and neither is, let's see, who else do we got out there? Yeah, it's just Brown. So we'll see who's active. But anyhow, let's get to these predictions. Let's throw it to you, Brett. Your score prediction, and give us 2 bold predictions for this game.
Okay. My score prediction is going to be the Bills winning this game 37-30. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think that Buffalo, like we said, is going to start utilizing the X factors in the middle of the field in Cole Beasley as well as Khalil Shakir and Stephon Diggs. My first bold prediction for this game is going to be Stephon Diggs going over 170 yards.
Wow.
I think he has 2 touchdowns in this game, and I think that they're going to have to start to double team him. I think the first half is going to be where he has a lot of yards. I think he's going to go over 120 yards in the first half. Then he's going to start to slow down in the second half, and that's when you're going to see guys like Gabe Davis as well as Dawson Knox being utilized more. Second one is going to be that the Bills are going to have 4 sacks in this game. I think that Greg Russo is going to have 2 of those sacks, and the other 2 are going to come from one from Matt Milano, and the other one's going to be Shaq Lawson getting a sack. But I think the most important thing, and this is my last factor in this game, is going to be that the Bills will not punt the ball in this game. So
Wow.
you're not going to see Sam Martin out there. I think it's going to be a lot of field goals, a lot of touchdowns, and I think it's going to be a game where you're not going to see Sam Martin out there unless he's holding the ball down for a field goal or an extra point.
Okay, now follow up to that. Will Josh Allen throw any interceptions? Because that's like the equivalent of, punting the football. Will there be any interceptions?
I'll save that for my pregame show. I won't jinx it. So,
okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't think he's going to throw an interception in this game. I think that Josh is going to be lights out. I think he's going to be ready for the moment. When you look back to the divisional round last year, he was locked in from the moment he stepped out onto the field. I think he's going to throw up pretty early before the game. I think it's going to be like a 1 o'clock throw up. And I think he's going to be ready for the game. He's going to have 2 hours to settle his stomach.
Prop that on throw ups.
I have Tijuana Flats that's popping up on my screen right now. It's trying to tell me to go order some Tijuana Flats. So I think he's going to get that. I think he's going to get all the jitters out of him early. And I think he's going to be locked in, focused, and he's ready to get to that AFC Championship game like he missed last year. So he does want to do it again and have 2 divisional round losses in a row. He's going to want to get to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think he'll get to the Kansas City Chiefs this week.
All right. Jake, let me throw it to you. Your score predictions, your bold
Brett,
predictions.
I absolutely love where your head's at. You're saying it's a 1-score game. Well, guess what? I think it's going to be a 2-score game. I'm going to say 35-24 Bills. It's going to be an incredible offensive production. It is going to be the most sound game of football we've ever seen this year. I'm saying no turnovers is my bold prediction already right here. No turnovers in general. I'm saying no fumbles, no picks, no nothing. I think we will punt, but no turnovers, which is a bold prediction because I feel like we've turned the ball over in just about every single game this year. So I think there needs to be a game where we are not left with a doubt. This Bengals team is good for sure. But as I mentioned, right when we started the show, that offensive line is so banged up. It's our moment to shine, put a lot of pressure on Joey Burrow, and make his life basically a living hell. So that's my reasoning for them only getting 24 points. They also looked pretty sloppy against the Ravens last week.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have even won that game last week, but they did. Results are results. I'm glad we're getting this rematch, and we're going to be able to kind of make this right, And I know we're playing at home this time around, but I think a good ass whooping is due. And I don't want any doubts left on that field. So I'm saying 35-24 Bills. We're going to be riding high, and we're going to be going to Atlanta the following week to play the Chiefs. Maybe there's a chance, and I'm not going to say there's a great chance, but maybe there's a little chance that we end up playing at home against the Jags. But no matter what, we'll be playing at an AFC Championship. Right. So one of the bold predictions, obviously, no turnovers. Another bold prediction, Cole Beasley over 100 receiving yards. And I think the reasoning for that, as I mentioned, they run this crazy zone defense where they're at times dropping 8. I think it's the perfect opportunity for a slot guy to go over 100 yards. And I like Cole. I think it's time, man. Like, we got a little taste of it last week. He had a nice 29-yard catch. He had a touchdown. He got in the end zone. Things were getting a little more comfortable between him and Josh. Not that they ever lost chemistry, but I think it takes a few weeks to get your legs under you and to get back in the game like he did. So I feel pretty confident about this, and I really like us utilizing him a lot in this game. So that is a bold prediction. Defensively, I'm going to say a bold prediction. Let's see here. I like our interior this game. I like Daquan Jones with 2 sacks.
Whoa.
Yeah. All right. A guy that doesn't put up the numbers, doesn't do the sexy things, but makes enough plays. He makes plays so other guys can make plays, if that makes sense. He does the dirty work in the middle there, but I think he has a nice lights-out game. And as I mentioned, Bills 35-24, 2-score game. It's going to be a good victory, guys. And I love what Ray John Bills says. Yeah. If my score prediction is legitimate, I got to send you the Wyoming jersey. What size are you, sir? Because I'm an XL.
He says the score is 38-28. And I hope that Skull is giving him some correct answers this week. I was a little disappointed from the Skull last week, honestly. And then he says, you said his name wrong, Jake. It's not Joe Burrow. Yeah. It's Macaulay Culkin.
I love that, man. I've seen that meme before where they compared him to Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone, and I was dying when I saw that. It's funny you're bringing it back up. It's great.
I'll have to show you.
And I like Joe Burrow. I really do. I think, from a quarterback, looking at the top 5 guys in the league, I think he's number 3 right now. I think he actually surpassed Justin Herbert. So, obviously a great player and an awesome quarterback. And, hey, they were talking on ESPN the other day about who they'd rather start a franchise with between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. 4 guys voted Joe Burrow over Josh Allen, and that didn't sit well with me. So I think Josh, just add more fuel to the fire. We're like 5-point favorites right now. Let's double that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Did you hear the comment from Joe Mixon that he made about, like, they was talking about the
disrespectfulness?
The disrespectfulness about the tickets being sold to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
What was it? What did he say?
So he said that it's pretty much shit that they're selling tickets to the AFC Championship game in Atlanta between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. He said that we haven't even played this game. Well, how is that fair? They shouldn't be selling tickets to a game when we're still in the playoffs and we're still competing. And you're pretty much writing us out of the playoffs, even though we haven't even played against the Buffalo Bills. And I agree with him. I think he's right. He very well is. But on the other hand, the NFL has got to do what the NFL has to do. And they have to sell tickets and and I'm sorry to say it on the air, I don't really cuss, but you got to put asses in the seat. And that's the case. If it's going to be in Atlanta, you got to get the tickets sold. But if you do it late, what happens is, you're going to be like my stepfather who's trying to get people to come to a Super Bowl party, and he hasn't even gotten the posters out and the invites out, and we're already 3 weeks away. So you're going to see what happens. Nobody's going to show up. So do you want people there or do you not want people there?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you get your money back if it doesn't happen. So right. Again, like you said, we want to represent our team always. So of course, I mean, you want to do that. So for me, guys, Bills, Bengals, they're such similar teams. You look at PFF, for example, that tool. I mean, you look across the board, it's like we're looking in a mirror almost. Again, the one big difference is we've had 40 sacks in the years. They've had 30 sacks in the year. I do think we can take advantage of that offensive line like we've already talked about. For me, though, it's going to be 31-30. Bills win with a field goal at the end of the game, time running out. Yes, it's going to be one of those because it always is. Every time I want it to be one of your scores, the skull for Rage on Bills, I want him to be right. so that I can relax, but it never happens. So 31-30, Bills get the victory. Bet the over, lock it in. If you're a betting person, lock the over in on this.
What is
game.
it set at right now? Do you know, Mike?
Last I looked, what was it,
see.
like 40?
I think it's
5 or
40.
6 is out there. It was like 47 or something like that, maybe a
I think
little
it's
higher.
49.
Yeah,
48
lock
and a
it.
half I got right here.
Okay, lock it in. Lock in the over.
Yeah.
That's an easy done deal.
Can you imagine that game if it's 31-30? Can you imagine Sean in the chat what he's going to be saying? And
Oh, I know.
He's going to be like, "Oh my God, it's 4 seconds left." He's going to be like, "F this, F that, F this, F that." Like, I hate.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate Leslie Frazier. I hate Ken Dorsey. Why can't Ken Dorsey get the head coaching job in Carolina? I'm done with this team. And then all of a sudden, field goal. This time expires. He's gonna be like, "Okay, we're good. I'm good."
All we got to do is win each game. Just win the game. I don't care how it is. Of course, I want it to be a blowout. Like, not a blowout, but you're saying double-digit win. I want that. Believe me. Let's see here. Other bold predictions. Bills rush for over 150 yards. That's including Josh Allen's numbers. Josh has been a little down on the running game, which is fine. I would love him throwing the ball. I think they've been spying him. Defenses have. But I think between the 3 running backs, over 150 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. And then I'm going to say it again. I've been riding him all year. As Taron Johnson gets a pick 6 or makes a huge play in this game
Nice.
to put it away, to help put it away. So
That's
we
a
go.
good matchup. That's a really good matchup to key in on too. Him versus Tyler Boyd. So that'll be really fun to watch. I will be watching that every play for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that kind of does it. We're a little over an hour, but good timing. Go spend some time with your fiance there, Brett, and your wife, Jake, of course. And everyone, thank you again for the channel. We're going to have a big post-game show, hopefully celebrating, but we'll have it on that day, a couple hours after the game. And we appreciate your support. Again, head on over to the Go Bills podcast, smash his subscribe button. And of course, if you're new to Nickel City Mafia, please drop a nickel on our subscribe button. We appreciate you. We really do. Having the interaction, isn't it so much more fun when you got all this interaction in the channel?
100%.
It just makes us want to do this more. I mean, we love talking. We could talk for hours, but when we have that interaction, it's fantastic. So thank you, all of you. Really, sincerely appreciate it. Jake, thank you. Brett, thank you. And we'll see you soon. Go Bills.
Hey,
Go
go Bills.
Bills.
Ray John, we're not leaving you. Don't worry. This isn't goodbye. We'll see you later.
We'll see you later. Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, go Bills, baby.
Bye-bye.
Go Bills.